Today I'm going to be showing you a website called Quill.org. Quill is a website that you can use to assess your students' comprehension of English conventions. So if you're trying to work on writing, and this can be in any content area, you can work on writing across contents, science, math using word problems, science and history using content level or content area text. So let me just show you what Quill does. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my account. Obviously you would set up your own. I've already got one set up. So the first thing you would do is you would go to create a class and you would create your class. You could do it by period. Say if you teach multiple classes of the same content area, then you can just do it by period, like it has the example 6-period ELA. I teach 5 different classes, so all of my classes are on here and they're all different, and then it asks for grade level. And what's cool about Quill is that it can teach to any standard relating to grammar and writing from 1 through 12, but it also supports university level. So say in the future you're teaching a college class. It supports university level comprehension by modifying the text to fit the grade level, but then teaching the conventions of English in the same sort of fashion. So you would select your grade and then it generates a class code for you. And of course you can regenerate it if you don't like truth source or set term. Infinite number of possibilities. So then you would click create a class. So when you do that, you'll be able to access your class through the manage classes screen. Now as you can see, I've got a couple duplicates here. Just funny, these were created tomorrow. But anyway, so if I wanted to access my class that I've already created to make sure that my students can sign up for that class, I would navigate to my class. So I've got students in my English 10 Quill account, so I'm going to go ahead and open that, and there's our class code there, just in case I want to double verify how many students I have enrolled in this app. I do have more than 2 students the date I created it, and you can archive the class. Say at the end of the school year you want to keep the data available for good record keeping, you can archive that and it won't pop in your active classes. But anyway, so we're going to go to manage class, and then it shows my class name, the grade level I have set for it, and then the students, their usernames, and how many activities they've completed. Now I just started using Quill not that long ago, but I like how it flows. I like how it works, approaching students at their level and then teaching to areas of writing that they are struggling with. So I think I'm going to go ahead and continue doing that, using that. So this is where you would see that your students are here, but if you want to invite them to your class, you go to the invite class screen, you select your class, it automatically populates your, that's not the class code, your class code as part of the instructions, and then they would just follow that. So they would go to quill.org/account/new, and then they would sign up, and then after signing up they'll be able to click a button very similar to this that says join my class, and then be able to input the class code. You could also set up the accounts for your students, say if you're working with younger students or students where English is not necessarily their first language. It may just be easier to kind of like circumvent them and go straight to creating it yourself. So now that I've got a class, I want to assign them an activity. So I'd go to the activity planner up here at the top, and there's a multitude of different activities that you can choose from. Usually Quill will prompt you with a new class to start a diagnostic. So let's say for all intents and purposes that I would like to add a student to my English 9 class. So I would type it in under the Invite Students tab down at the bottom, create your student account. So I'm going to go Joe Smith, nice and generic, and it would automatically generate Joe Smith's username. So then if I wanted to plan some activities for Joe Smith, I could assign a new activity, which is the button up there at the top. They usually will prompt you to do the entry diagnostic just so they can gauge where your student is at as far as what areas in particular that they struggle in. But you can also, if you just want to go play fast and loose, you can create your own custom activity packs using areas that you may already be familiar that they are struggling in, like sentence structure, using complex sentences, using adverbs or adjectives, and you can create that yourself. You can also select from a large amount of variety packs, activity packs that they have on there. But we're going to go ahead and do entry diagnostic. So this is what they test for in the entry diagnostic, just to get a general picture of where your students are at. 8 basic areas of sentence structure, giving you, as it says, insight into your student's ability to create sentences. This is how the assessment itself is constructed. So they provide a prompt and instructions. Your student then responds to that prompt, either by, for this one, they're combining sentences and they have to do it using a comma. So they're taking these 2 sentences, figuring out how to combine them, and then rendering a result. And then in your report that you'll get afterward, they not only grade the diagnostic for you to show you how well they did in certain areas and what they didn't do so well in, but they also link it to common concepts in English conventions so that you know exactly what's going on. And then they recommend activities that your student should take part in to develop those skills and improve based on their performance in the diagnostic. So we're going to assign the diagnostic, and we can preview it, which we'll do in a minute, but you just go ahead to click continue to assign, and then it would assign it to your class. So let's go ahead and preview this diagnostic just to see what it does, what it is. So no matter what you answer, whether you select that it is a complete sentence or that it is not a complete sentence, Quill is going to give you the opportunity to edit the sentence if it is not complete, to make it complete, or if it is complete, to just go ahead and press submit. So we're just going to go ahead and press submit. Man is eating the pizza. We're going to edit that because that's not complete. English conventions, and even if you don't, what it's asking you for is pretty simple. So I'm going to go ahead and save and exit. And you can start and stop an assessment, say you run out of time during a class period. That is totally an option to go back to it at a later date. So now, say I had finished my assessment as a student. To help you understand where your students are at in particular areas. So you can access that. Usually there's a tabby thing right here. It's under profile. Bingo. So under profile, you can get to your student reports. So that we can access that diagnostic data that's been produced. And so the 3 that you get with the free account are a visual overview where you can see, using color-coded icons, proficiency levels for particular content topics. You can also see a activity analysis, which goes through the activities that they have done and shows you where they are struggling, where they're not. And then this is the diagnostic. So I'm going to show you the diagnostic first. So I've had 2 students, like I showed you for my 10th grade class, that have completed this. And both of them are in the not yet proficient category. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at Sergio right here, because he did the worst, so why not? So it also shows you, I don't know if you noticed, the total time that they took to take the assessment as far as the amount of questions. So Sergio took 22 minutes, which is about a minute per question. In contrast, his classmate Harut took 15 minutes, which can kind of give you like a ballpark idea of how much they are trying or how incredibly proficient they might be. But with these results, I would say we weren't exactly putting our best effort forth. So you can look at the results per student. You can look at them per question, and then you can also look at the recommendations as a result of the diagnostic. You can change the student's name here, and it'll create a drop-down list based on the class that you're in. And then it just goes question by question, showing you the directions that were provided, the prompt. So this is the same prompt as we saw for our sample diagnostic. Change the word to create a complete sentence. Listening to music on the ride home. Sergio responded with listening to music on the ride home. So obviously that's not a complete sentence, but it is identifying fragments. So they do try and find a little bit of good in most questions. If it's that they are not succeeding in a particular area, it's that there is a strength somewhere. Or the 2 different types of concepts that they're trying to assess through that question. So you can see just kind of like an overview of how he did, all the way down to the very last one. And they have grading explanations that are available on the resources page, or right there. You can then go question by question. So then you can go question by question with information about the prompt, the instructions that were provided, which number on the assessment it was, and then the score that they did based on the concepts that they were evaluating for. So you see that he did get some right with 100% mastery, and then there was yellow level mastery, 75 to, I think it's 65%, 65 to 80, or to 79, and then 59 and below is the red. And then you can see the recommendations that they make. So consider these like modules that you can get into for working on particular ideas in English. So like adverbs of manner, compound sentences, complex sentences. These are things that Sergio had a hard time with, and it'll drop down your entire class, so you'll be able to see with blue all of the suggestions, but then you can select any of these packs. So say that you think that compound sentences and compound subjects, objects, and predicates is something your kids need to work on. You can click it and make it happen. So once you're done looking at that, you can actually assign the activity packs directly from this screen. And then if you select the activity planner, they will populate in there so that you can see, you can actually even plan multiple days, add due dates, make this a daily or writing practice as often as possible. So as you can see, I've assigned some packs, and they vary in level depending, like you can do the adverbs of manner and then it'll just assign the entire chunk of it, which is 1, 2, and 3, and then the intermediate. But they basically look at how your students are doing and then assign, suggest for you to assign packets that fit their comprehension needs. So some of these I have set for the future, and you can assign a due date. You don't have to assign a due date. You can delete them at any time. This will show green once all of your students have completed it. And then you'll be able to go in there and get specific data relating to how well they comprehend it and whatnot. So I've got quite a few here, and they have what seems like an obscene amount of activity packs depending on the skill that you want to work on. It's not just those basic areas. They have, and some of them are created by teachers, some of them are created by Quill themselves, and you can create your own customized chunks of stuff depending on what you're working on in a lesson. Say you're working on comparing and contrasting, you can also couple that grammatically with compound and complex sentences, because you need those compound and complex sentences in order to be able to compare and contrast concepts. As you can see, we've got some history content in here going along with the English, and then the different levels. Red is high school, yellow is middle, and purple is elementary. And then there's the ELL ones also. This would be a great tool if you're an English teacher to prepare your students for the CELT, which I know we're doing right now. And I mean, you can work on a variety of different areas, people and places in space passages, New York City arts passages, different content paragraphs, so that they can become more proficient not only in your content area but also in writing. And then there's other cool tools that Quill has, and I'm just going to show you them briefly. So Quill Proofreader lets students look on a paragraph level at making edits that will help them understand how things occur in a sentence. And then you can, of course, just like the other assessments and activities, you can look at them the same way. You see where the standards match up, what topics that they relate to. And they even get in there with you with why whatever you're using or whatever you're doing is incorrect. And you can preview it before you give it to your students. You could go through the entire assessment yourself. And I highly recommend that, because why not? And then Quill Grammar set the opposite sort of Quill Proofreader and gets more down to a sentence level with comprehension of basic grammar skills. So students can edit, rewriting sentences, practice their skills, still lines up to Common Core state standards, still lines up to content that is essential to writing and concepts that are essential to writing. And then it walks you through why you did well or why you did not, what you need to work on, what the correct response should be, so on and so forth. So, and that's another thing that you can preview, which I, again, highly recommend. So this is Quill. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.